melting. So how can you run faster when your legs are literally gone? When your legs are literally melting, you know? Yo, what's up guys? So in this video we're going to be talking about the tower reworks again. This is going to be the part 2 and we're going to take a look at some of the less popular towers, but still somewhat popular. So the first tower we're going to be looking at is Gladiator. Gladiator, the problem, I've received multiple messages from different members of the community talking about how weak Gladiator is for a melee tower, and I personally think they have a point in a few ways. Blah blah blah. So if you guys can take a look at the stats table right now, Gladiator does 80 DPS and has a range of 6. So he wants to buff that range, buff that DPS to 92.5. Now, the thing about Gladiator is that it is earned by the hardest event in TDS history. There was Area 51, there was an Easter event, there was a spring event, or that's the same thing. Okay, I'm just gonna call it the spring event. So, Area 51, spring events, Halloween 2019, Halloween 2020, Christmas 2019. So there are 5 events, and Gladiator, well actually no, the 6th one is the Gladiator event. Gladiator is earned by doing the hardest event, but despite that, I feel like Gladiator is still somewhat underwhelming because its range is so bad, right? So, I do understand that Gladiator has an ability which boosts the swing rate by 35% in last 15 seconds, but that's going to be affected by the rate of fire bug. And the DPS that the Gladiator can get up to is 123 right now. So the average DPS, because the ability lasts for 15 seconds, has a 30-second cooldown, is going to be 123 plus 80 divided by 2, which is an average of about 100 DPS, right? So about 100 DPS is a Gladiator's, but the actual DPS is actually lower because of the rate of fire bug, and also because you're not able to click on the ability literally the moment after it ends. You're going to have to wait at least like point something seconds, so it's gonna be slightly lower than 100, but still it's pretty good, especially because the tower is pretty cheap. Now, do I agree with this buff? Yeah, even though the average DPS, if you're able to spam the ability on time every single time, is close to 100, I feel like it still needs a bit of a buff because the range is 6. Now, that's what people forget. They just take a look at the DPS, or even the DPS right now without the ability, which is 80. They take a look at the DPS and they're like, Gladiator is good, like it's really good 80 DPS, but the range is 6. Now let me show you guys what 6 range implies, right? So let's say this is Gladiator, Glad, and then there's the Fallen King, right? Fallen King does a stomp, boom 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 boom, stomp, right? Gladiator is stunned and the Fallen King moves out of the range. That is how small the 6 range is. Like, it is so small, it's actually ridiculous. The tower is super cheap, sure, and I believe you can solo with Gladiator, but I'm pretty sure that solo was on like a super easy map, so it doesn't really mean much. And as far as I know, Glad is not used for any of the harder game modes, such as like hardcore, hidden wave, etc., because again, the range is just so small. Like, this range is nothing, right? So what I would change in addition to the DPS buff would be to buff the range. You guys might say, well, Humble, that doesn't make sense. He only has a sword. How is the range going to be that big? If you wanted the game to be perfectly consistent, it's impossible to begin with because there are a lot of inconsistencies in TDS. Just to name a few, Paintballer has higher DPS than a scout, but is literally using paintballs. Scouts are using bullets, right? That's one inconsistency. Pyromancer is supposed to give zombies extra movement speed, and that doesn't make any sense. Why? Because if, as you can see, the pyro is shooting, or pew-pewing the zombie with flamethrower, right? Now, some people might say, well, the zombie's gonna run faster because it's burning, because it's hurting or whatever. But obviously, zombies don't feel pain. The fire is only going to burn through the zombie, right? Burn through the zombie's skin. So it'll start to slow down, right? Because it's gonna start losing its body parts because they're melting. So how can you run faster when your legs are literally gone? When your legs are literally melting, you know? So the speed buff doesn't make any sense because the zombies will lose their body eventually. So they have to start slowing down, right? Those are the two inconsistencies. Obviously, if I wanted to spend more time, you know, I can find more. So it really doesn't matter, you know, whether or not the Gladiator gets a greater range. Just give him a longer sword or something so that it makes sense if people really complain about it, right? So on top of the 92 DPS, which is 12 extra DPS, I would give, you know, maybe like 4 more range or something so that the range is 10 or maybe even 11, right? I mean, after all, I want to see like Gladiator being the meta tower because it's earned by the hardest event in TDS history. So why would it not make sense to make this tower a meta tower? That's what I'm confused about. I mean, it took below, I think, almost a year to even make this change. So we would have to wait another year for the changes that I'm proposing to take place, if ever. But that's what I think, guys. I agree with the DPS buff, but also extra range. Now, the next tower is another event tower, Swarmer. The problem, currently Swarmer can handle the first maybe 3 waves, and that's about it. I feel it could be put to a greater use, but to do this we may need to mix some levels so it goes down to a minimum of 4. Ability allergic reactions. Zombies affected by bees will have an allergic reaction, will take 1.2 times damage. Swarmer bees do not stack due to people getting like 200 DPS from Swarmer's previous bee bomb ability. Yeah, I'm glad he made a note regarding this because Swarmer is broken right now. Like broken not only in terms of OP, but like it's broken in a sense that it's doing the DPS that it wasn't intended to do. Okay, so apparently DPS of the Swarmer is calculated by sting time divided by tick times bee damage. So 400 is gonna be the total damage done, but you have to divide that by the sting time. So sting time is 8, so 400 divided by 8 is gonna be 50. So 50 DPS. Cost is 5,800. 50 DPS. Right now the DPS of the Swarmer is 16. Because of this ability, that 50 DPS is gonna be 60 plus, or actually exactly 60 for 4 seconds. So I think I like this change. I mean, he nerfed the range a little bit to compensate for the DPS or extra DPS, but he also nerfed the price a little bit. Now, the spring event was super easy. It was an Easter event, and the DPS of near 60. 60 may seem like a lot, but it does not have any hidden detection, right? Yeah, so I think this change is pretty good. I mean, maybe a little less DPS, maybe 40 to 45. I think that would be my personal preference, but this is fine too. Especially because Swarmer stack glitch is like literally 200 plus DPS. Yeah, I got like 260 DPS or something. But yeah, I definitely do agree with most of the Swarmer ability change. Okay, now is the Archer. It is a tower that is earned by not triumphing the Christmas event, but it was actually earned by the Christmas event candies, or like whatever, like presents, was it? I forget. But you could buy Archer with like 400 Christmas event candy or presents or whatever the currency was. But anyway, the problem, currently one of Archer's main abilities is Arrow's ability to pierce zombies and continue in a straight line has almost been stripped from it. It isn't until level 3 when his arrows can pierce zombies, but even then it's capped out of measly 3 zombies per arrow. Also, as an early game tower, I like to see level 1 and 2 get mixed together. 3 zombies per in a row, I don't think that's true. I'm pretty sure I've seen like up to 4 or 5. Okay, so regarding 3 zombies, so he was talking about level 3, which is true, as you can see by the stats table. And I was talking about like 5, that's when it's maxed out. Okay, so yeah, he's right. Now, I may agree with his with the damage buff, with like the DPS buff. I don't agree with Pierce buff though. Like 8 Pierce, that's like OP. 8 zombies penetrated, that's actually super strong. Okay, so the last event tower we're gonna be looking at is Frost Blaster. Now, he didn't leave any remarks or comments for the Frost Blaster, but we can see that the final DPS is 62 compared to right now the final DPS is 23. So he wants to make it a lot stronger, but the range is a lot smaller. 12 range. Right now the range is 18. And then the Frost Mark, 15% slow for 3 seconds. Okay, so level 3 has 5% slow for 3 seconds, level 4 has 10, and then 15 for the level 5 for the max rank. I'm personally okay with this change, just because you might think that 62 DPS is OP, but the range is a lot smaller. Range is like 2/3 compared to before. So even though it's 62 versus 23, its effective DPS is most likely going to be like 40 something DPS, which is something that I agree with. So that was it for the event tower reworks. I hope you guys liked this video, and let me know what you guys think. Like, give me your opinions in the comment section below, and see you guys in the next video. Peace.